It's time to make it, just give it a try. 'Cause you can make it like the old fat guy.
Welcome to this episode of You Can Make It with David Farrell, the old fat guy. That's me. Today we're going to make cookies. I love cookies. We're going to make a peanut chocolate chip cookie. Anybody can make chocolate chip. I just wanted to kick it up a notch and add some peanut flavor to it. Of course, I want to start this video, as I do most of my videos, with copious quantities of wine taken internally. Oh, that's so good. Now, most cookies are made in a pretty well the same way. So this is a good lesson for any of you who haven't done cookies before. The first thing I did is started by preheating my oven to the set temperature, which in this case is 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Then I'm going to mix the dry ingredients together. And we'll start off with 425 milliliters or 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. Now make sure if you're measuring it with a cup, you don't just scoop in. You've got to sift it into the cup and level it off, or you'll end up with too much flour. And then I'm going to add to my dry ingredients. I have 2 milliliters or half a teaspoon of baking powder. I have 5 milliliters or a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 milliliter or a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. So we'll just add that in. And we're going to stir that up and set it aside because we'll be using it later. But the idea is to get all your dry ingredients mixed up front. There we go. Now I have my stand mixer out, and we're going to go to the second thing you usually do with cookies, which is cream the butter. Now I forgot to get the paddle out here for my mixer, so just give me a second. So I've got my paddle for my mixer out, and this is where you usually add your butter or margarine. Now what I have here is 175 milliliters or 3/4 of a cup of room temperature butter. So we'll just add that. And to that, we're going to add an extra ingredient to kick up the peanut, which is 75 milliliters or 1/3 of a cup of crunchy peanut butter. You want crunchy because you'll want those little pieces of peanut in your final cookie. And we'll just throw that in there too. Make sure you get it all in. There we go. So there's my 75 milliliters of peanut butter. Now you never cream the butter just by itself. I always find it creams a bit easier if you put the sugar in too. So the sugar for this recipe is actually 2 kinds of sugar. And I have 150 milliliters each of packed brown sugar and white sugar. So we'll just add those to the peanut butter and the butter. We'll set that back aside. Now, you want to start mixing those together slowly so they don't bump up out of your bowl. And then you can speed it up a bit. Now, you'll find what often happens is the butter tends to stick to the beater. So just make sure you give it a scrape every once in a while to get it all mixed in. There we go. Okay, you can see that the peanut butter and the butter is all nicely incorporated into a good homogeneous mass. Now, at this point, I like to give the bowl a scrape to make sure we're getting all of the butter into it. There we go. Now, at this point, in most cookie recipes, is where you add your eggs and any vanilla if it's called for. So I'm just going to crack an egg into the bowl. And I'm going to add a ½ teaspoon of vanilla. That's not a lot, but this cookie has a lot of flavor from the peanut butter in that already. So a ½ teaspoon or 2.5 milliliters of vanilla. Now once again, you want to get that well incorporated. So just put it on low to start it off and then turn it up a bit and give it a good minute or two for that to really beat in. I've given it a minute or two, but I just want to give it one more scrape. It's really important you get everything homogeneously mixed, and you want to get any stuff that's clinging to the paddle off and any stuff that's clinging to the bottom of the bowl. There we go. So now we'll just give it another minute after we've scraped it, just to make sure we got it well blended. There we go. So it's all well mixed together now, and now it's time to add our dry ingredients. So we'll just dump them into the butter mixture. Now at this point is really important you go slow, because the flour is going to want to tend to puff up. So just give it a few little cranks to start, and then let it go on slow until the flour starts to incorporate with the dough. Now you don't want to overbeat it or your cookies will be tough. So when it's just starting to mix together, like that, but not yet mixed, give it another scrape. I get all the stuff off the edges mixed in with your cookies. Up off the bottom. And there we go. And scrape off the beater. And we're just going to mix now until this is well mixed. So, once it's well mixed, we want to add, because they're peanut chocolate chip cookies, you're going to want to add some peanuts and some chocolate chips. So what I have here is 150 milliliters, or 2/3 of a cup, of unsalted peanuts. I don't chop them or anything. I like some big chunks in my cookies. And what I have here is 175 milliliters, or 3/4 of a cup, of chocolate chips. These are semi-sweet chocolate chips. So we'll just, now here you want to go slow because you don't want to bust them up too much. A little bit won't hurt though. There we go. Nicely mixed together. You just need a few seconds to get the chocolate chips and that into it. And we want to clean off our paddle. Now, I'd love to lick this bowl of cookie doughs, but they tell us you shouldn't do that anymore because raw eggs have nasty bacteria in them. And you don't want to make your kids or anything sick, so don't lick it, but it's awfully tempting. However, it's not worth getting sick. So we'll just take the paddle off, take the bowl off, and I'll get my baking trays out and be back in a second. So I have a cookie sheet out now, and I'm just going to spray it with some baking spray. This actually isn't necessary, but I find it just keeps the pan a bit easier to clean afterwards. So just give it a nice quick spritz. Now you don't want your cookies to be huge. I find they bake better if they're a little on the smaller side. So what I'm going to do is just take a spoonful of dough and make it into the size just a bit smaller than a golf ball. And you want to put them about 1.5 to 2 inches apart. Don't worry about them being exact. They're homemade cookies. They should look a little varied. So I'm just putting my last cookie on the cookie sheet, and this is going to go into a 375 degree Fahrenheit oven for 8 to 10 minutes, just until the cookies are starting to get a little bit brown on the bottom. I'll continue doing the rest of the cookies and put them on the sheets, and I'll see you back when they're done. My cookies have come out of the oven, and what I recommend you do is leave them in the tray for about 5 minutes to set up. It's just a lot easier to take them off because they're a chewy cookie. So once they sat for 5 minutes, another batch is ready. I'll get them in a second. Just take them off and put them on a plate to cool. As you can see, they come off very easily. And you can see the bottom's got just a nice touch of golden. They're a delicious cookie. There we go. So this is the last few chocolate chip cookies I baked. I should let you know that when I'm cooking them, I like to turn the pans in the oven a half turn and change which shelf they're on halfway through their cooking time. It just gives a better consistency. And my oven was a little slow today. It actually took me 11 to 12 minutes to bake these cookies, so keep an eye on them. What you're looking for is a nice golden brown bottom, nice crunchy top. You can see they don't have to be too dark. They're just fine. Just make sure you let them sit for 5 minutes before you put them on a plate. So now, the only thing left to do is to try a peanut chocolate chip cookie. The things I go through for you, my loyal fans. Let's try a cookie. Nice and tender. Lots of butter taste. It doesn't taste like a peanut butter cookie. The reason you put peanut butter in it is it adds richness to the cookie. You can sort of taste the peanuts there, but you get the crunch of the peanuts and the creamy chocolate chips. This is a cookie that any child or adult would go crazy for. And of course, the best part is you can make it.
I have a good woman. I ain't good looking, but I do some cooking. I'm the old fat guy. So use that oven if you want some lovin'. Be like the old fat guy. Be like the old fat guy.